Salutation, this is Christian Firefly Nerd, and thank you for joining. And today I want to talk about fairy tale, just a couple of the different magics from fairy tale, specifically Re-quip magic versus dragon slaying magic. And so, I mostly just want to compare each other and see which one's cooler or maybe makes more sense. And so, moving right into it, dragon slaying magic, particularly for the main characters, and essentially there are three generations of dragon slayers, as I recall. The first generation was taught dragon slaying magic from dragons. The second generation had dragon slaying lacrimas, which are basically magic batteries placed inside of them, which gave them the ability of dragon slaying magic. The third generation had both happen. They were taught by dragons and then had lacrimas placed inside them of dragon slaying magic. And it's debatable which one's the strongest. The one that would make most sense to be strongest is the Generation 3, having been taught from the dragons, having the original source of the magic, and having the lacrimas in them, which gives them a boost in their magical capacity. So the third one makes most sense to me, but we'll mostly be focusing on the first generation Dragon Slayers with Natsu, Gajiel, and Wendy. And of course they have their own unique abilities, or they have their move sets, which the different abilities differ between the dragon slaying type, like fire, iron, or air, or sky dragon slaying. And on a point, they all have like wing attacks, which between fire, air, and iron have different levels of effectivity. Same with their talon attacks and their dragon slaying roars. But they each also have the ability to eat of their own element to regain magical power. Natsu can eat fire, Gajiel can eat iron, Wendy can eat air, as she is the Sky Dragon Slayer. And on that point, Wendy would probably be the most powerful, because we've seen Natsu eat fire, basically a fireball the size of a castle in like half second, because otherwise his friends were going to be scorched. So there doesn't seem to be very much of a hard limit of how fast they can intake, and Wendy has the best resource for consistent intake to charge herself. So honestly, Wendy may be young and a child and not that strong compared to the other guild members for now, but after she gets some practice with gobbling air, she should be the strongest of the Dragon Slayers, just able to consistently intake, and that means she wouldn't run out of power, and she could have the most power. Anyway, moving on, it is supposed to be a powerful magic strong enough to slay dragons, and after enough of using the magic and slaying dragons, you can turn into a dragon yourself, which is awesome, and brings up a point that dragon slayers should learn takeover magic, which is the transfiguration of your own body. Most people use it to transform into others or into beasts, which are stronger than themselves. But dragon slayers, after they turn into dragons, could use takeover magic to resume their human form. Although, with the mind of a dragon, it also seems like you may at least somewhat lose control after you turn into a dragon as a dragon slayer. One of the biggest threats, and spoilers, one of the biggest threats in fairy tale is Agnologia, the king of the dragon slayers, turned into a dragon and king of the dragons. Um, so overall, it's a really cool magic system there. Fairy Tail has a lot of different magics, and they they basically could each have their own devil fruit. It's so random, varied, and etc. Like it's I think it's well done, but it also could turn Deus Ex Machina-ish. Like, I need something to happen. Let's just introduce this new magic thing that can do this, and we're good to go. And magic can be very varied itself, and in most magic systems, let's take Merlin for example. He probably could do anything that any of the fairy tale wizards have. So I guess I'm not really complaining. I'm just saying that it's kind of weird that they have specific magics, or they call them magic, like dragon-slaying magic, or takeover magic, or Re-quip magic. I just find it interesting that they call it different magics as though they're different magics, when you don't have to have an affinity for the magic to use it. Natsu, Happy, and Lucy start learning takeover magic and have varied levels of success in that. So it's really all just magic, just different classes of magic. Anyway, that aside, I really appreciate the magic system, and really appreciate the effort that was put in to keep it from the Deus Ex form. Even the Dragon Slayers, with their specific magic to counteract dragons, have had troubles taking down dragons in the series. And so, let's move on to Re-quip magic. What it allows is basically to store weapons and armor in kind of a different dimension and summon them upon your wish. And so Urza, the main person using takeover magic, is able to switch out swords basically instantly, and she is marveled at for the speed at which she conjures or swaps out her equipment. And so it's also really cool magic because the equipment she has gives her buffs. And I'm wondering if that's a trait of her takeover magic or a trait of the armor itself. Like, can Urza summon different armor sets for Natsu? Like, maybe there's a armor that reduces motion sickness, and Urza could just summon that and let Natsu wear it. Now, I don't know if that's covered anywhere, but she doesn't really ever seem to summon anything for anybody else to use. And she also has somewhat of a telekinetic control over the equipment she summons. And her magic pool is deep enough that in even the early episodes, at one point there was a threat that required her to summon over 200 different weapons. And she summons over 200 weapons. And then she controls them to counteract the threat, and she still has the mana to tank over 200 explosions of electricity, because the threat will electric lacrimas, batteries again, magical batteries, and they had a spell cast on them that if someone dealt damage to the lacrima would retaliate with its power. And so Urza's magic capacity was strong enough to overcome the shield, was to summon and control over 200 weapons, destroy the lacrima, and then tank the explosions of the lacrima. Now, overall, the more practical one may be Urza's magic, with the ability to re-quip, and especially if you're able to find good equipment, such as the adamantine armor, which is super defensible, or her armors that increase her speed, her armors that increase her attack, defense, resistances to elements such as her Fire Empress armor, her Water Empress armor, which protects from the fire and water respectively, and her Purgatory armor, which seems to increase attack or DPS, damage per second. So overall, I would say hers is more practical, and with a deep mana pool and her skill as a warrior, she makes phenomenal use of it and is able to take out Natsu, basically a title character, one of the main character. She's generally able to take him down without much effort. However, the cooler power, and the power I probably would choose to have, would be dragon slaying magic. Turning into a dragon, if I go crazy, wouldn't be that fun, but I'd first learn dragon slaying magic, then I'd go to probably takeover magic, just in case I do turn into a dragon and have enough self-control to use takeover magic to turn myself back into human, Plus, it would just be fun to be like a bear using fire dragon slaying magic, or something like that. Sorry, I just was thinking in my head of which slaying magic I would prefer to have. Which, honestly, that's going to be a topic for another day because reasons. Anyway, moving on though. That's basically it. The probably smarter, more practical, and especially if you value your humanity, the better magic would probably be the re-equip magic, so that you could definitely maintain that self-control. And also, with the constant use of your abilities, you may be able to, like a balloon, kind of stretch your mana pool a bit bigger. It might be a better way for that, because Natsu runs out of his mana a lot. He is very much a mana sprinter. Just take out the guy quickly, even if I exhaust myself mana-wise. Whereas Urza, each re-equip, she was able to train to have the re-equips use less magic and be fast and re-equip faster. And so she puts in less magical effort for re-equipping, and so is more marathoning her mana pool, and so there are of course arguments for both magics, and maybe they're not even the coolest or the best magics. Gildarts is basically one of the strongest characters we've seen, able to take out Natsu by basically flicking him with his pinky. He hasn't done that in the anime, but just as an example, yeah, he can take people out without much effort. But honestly, those are, because of the characters who use those magics, those are kind of the coolest magics, and those are kind of the best magics. But of course, let me know what you think is the coolest magic from Fairy Tail, and let me know if you which one you think is better, the Re-quip or the dragon slaying magic. But of course, remember to like the video, comment, as well as subscribe. And until next video, this is Christian of Firefree Nerd signing out.